Welcome back, CISOs and security leaders. Today we're diving into a highly critical operational explainer, and we're basing this on some brand new analysis from futurist Thorsten Meyer. We are unpacking exactly how AI has fundamentally shattered the 90-day disclosure window, completely shifting the advantage back over to the attacker. If your enterprise is still relying on those traditional vulnerability patch cycles, well, you're definitely going to want to pay close attention to this one.
Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to cover the closing of the 90-day window, the collapse of the knowledge floor, and the shift in trust boundaries. Then we'll dig into the recent Vercel and Canvas case studies, synthesize the three main AI asymmetries, and wrap it all up with some concrete directives for your security teams. Let's get right into it.
All right, starting off with Section 1, the 90-day window closes and how AI weaponizes public commits. So, historically speaking, defenders had a massive advantage. You had about 90 days of breathing room to patch your systems quietly, mostly because researchers and attackers had to do this incredibly slow, painstaking human reverse engineering of patched binaries. Looking back on it, 90 days used to feel like a stressful mad dash for IT, right? But compared to today, it was practically a luxury vacation. Look at the modern attacker's advantage now. We have literally gone from months down to minutes. Modern AI commit monitoring uses what's called diff archaeology to weaponize public open source commits almost instantly. The AI just sits there, watches a mainline kernel commit, and asks itself, hey, does this fix a security issue? And if the answer is yes, it just goes ahead and generates a working zero-day exploit before your downstream distributions even have a chance to issue an update. It's wild. To put that into perspective, just think about the standard Linux distribution update lag. You've got the mainline public commit, which is instantly visible to the world. Then, creating stable backboards takes a few days. The distribution builds, those take weeks. And actual end-user deployment takes months. By the time your downstream distributions are even compiling the package, the AI already has a weaponized exploit ready to fire. Our traditional multi-week IT update pipeline just was not built for AI speed. And we really need to understand that this isn't just a delay anymore. It is a massive structural vulnerability. The patch itself has effectively become the disclosure event.
Moving right along to Section 2, the knowledge floor collapses, which really marks the end of the traditional apprenticeship pipeline.
Now this quote from the Alan Turing Institute is something that should absolutely keep every security leader up at night. They were evaluating Anthropic's Claude Mythos preview, and they found that engineers with literally zero formal security training were able to generate complete working exploits. And the crazy part, the AI didn't even need a specialized testing harness or expert scoring. All that deep, tacit knowledge of complex reverse engineering and memory corruption is just baked right into the fundamental training data of the model itself.
Think about the sheer volume of study that used to be required here. Producing a top-tier vulnerability researcher took a grueling 5 to 10-year apprenticeship pipeline just to develop that deep, intuitive knowledge of kernel internals and bypass craft. But today, you just need access to a frontier model API and the ability to type the prompt, find a vulnerability. The global pool of capable attackers just exploded overnight. Anyone with an API key now possesses capabilities that used to take a decade to master. Your defensive pipeline is vastly, vastly outnumbered.
Which brings us to Section 3, the trust boundary shift. Where do the bugs actually live now?
So for the last 25 years, our entire defensive infrastructure has been laser-focused on traditional memory safety bugs in C and C++ kernels. We've built these massive, complex defensive walls using technologies like ASLR and NX bits, but AI attackers have shifted their focus entirely. They are now heavily targeting trust boundary failures. We're talking about integration seams, OAuth scopes, and third-party SaaS permissions. And the bitter irony here is that 25 years of sophisticated memory protections do absolutely nothing to protect a misconfigured OAuth scope. AI has completely lowered the barrier to entry for exploiting these cloud misconfigurations, and it's shifted the fight to an entirely new battleground where our traditional tooling is frankly just way less mature.
Let's make this concrete in Section 4, Vercel and Canvas case studies, where we'll be deconstructing these integration failures.
Okay, let's break down the Vercel attack chain from April 2026. It started so simply. A Vercel employee just installed a third-party AI productivity app called Context.ai. Next thing you know, an employee over at that app company gets compromised by Luma Stealer malware. That info stealer harvested a valid OAuth token. The attacker then used that token to pivot straight into the Google Workspace, then hopped into the Vercel account, and finally decrypted their environment variables. I really want to highlight something here. There was absolutely zero memory corruption involved in this attack. It was just a cascading failure of trust boundaries, ironically kicking off with a tool that was meant to boost productivity.
And the fallout from that? A structurally flawed allow-all permission resulted in a $2 million enterprise breach that exposed downstream customer services across AWS, GCP, and Azure. The underlying code wasn't buggy at all. It was the trust boundaries that failed. You really have to ask yourself right now, how many overly broad allow-all tokens are currently just sitting active in your environment, waiting to be mapped out and exploited by an AI?
We see the exact same pattern in the Canvas breach executed by the threat group Shiny Hunters. This perfectly illustrates how AI allows attackers to precisely target really complex multi-tier authentication systems at scale. The attackers abused a logic vulnerability in the free-for-teacher account creation process. This granted them broader infrastructure access, and they ultimately exfiltrated 3.65 terabytes of highly sensitive student data across thousands of institutions. Again, no fancy zero-day kernel exploit here. It was just precision mapping and targeting of account authorization models at a scale we haven't really seen before.
All right, moving into Section 5. 3 AI attacker asymmetries. Let's synthesize this structural threat.
So, when we synthesize all of this, we're really looking at 3 compounding asymmetries that are decisively shifting the advantage away from us. First is time. We've completely lost our 90-day window. We've gone from months of breathing room to functional exploits being generated in minutes from public diffs. Second is expertise. We're no longer just defending against a handful of tenured security apprentices. We've gone from a decade-long human pipeline to simple API prompts, and that's opened the floodgates to literally anyone. And third is category. We are fighting on a brand new battlefield. The bugs that matter most have shifted away from maturely defended memory safety into highly vulnerable complex integration seams. Taken together, this represents a severe structural deterioration of our current defensive posture.
Finally, Section 6, New Directives for CISOs. This is your operational action plan.
You've got to adapt, and you've got to do it now. First up, you need to implement upstream commit monitoring yourself. Do not wait around for your distribution patches to tap you on the shoulder and tell you you're vulnerable. Second, you must drastically compress your patch timelines. You really need to be targeting 72 hours for kernel security patches, and honestly, that's going to require some heavy automation. Third, aggressively audit your entire OAuth permission landscape. Find those allow-all grants and eliminate them immediately. And finally, you have to start treating your SaaS supply chains and these new AI productivity tools as Tier 1 infrastructure. Shadow AI is the new Shadow IT, and it demands rigorous governance. I want to leave you with a pretty provocative question from today's explainer. Based on Thorsten Meyer's analysis, we're looking at roughly an 18 to 36-month window before this asymmetry just becomes entirely unmanageable. As this capability gap widens every single day, how are you going to spend your remaining window? Are you actively building the necessary defensive capacity, or are you just layering on further structural vulnerability? It is absolutely time to rethink the baseline. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I will catch you in the next explainer.